There was a moment I'll never forget. I remember the way the room felt. Quiet, almost heavy. I was sitting across from a friend, my eyes red, hands trembling. I had just told him something I had never told anyone before. The words felt jagged and raw as they left my lips, my voice cracking under the weight of years of silence. I braced myself for judgment, for discomfort, for the awkward pause that so often follows honesty. But instead, I saw tears form in his eyes. He didn't turn away. He leaned in, and in that instant, for the first time in a long time, I felt safe, seen, connected. Not because I was strong, not because I had it all together, but because I was vulnerable and because I let myself be real. We are living in the most connected time in human history. The internet, social media, and technology have woven us together in ways our ancestors could never have imagined. At any moment, we can reach across the world with a tap, a swipe, a click, and yet so many of us feel more alone than ever before. You scroll through your feed and it's a highlight reel. Beaming smiles, perfect vacations, flawless filters. It looks like everyone else is living their best life. But behind the screen, there's anxiety, there's depression, there's a gnawing sense of loneliness that no amount of likes or followers can soothe. Why is that? Why, in a world overflowing with connections, do we feel so disconnected? The answer isn't complicated. Perfection pushes people away. The more polished and curated our lives appear, the harder it is for others to relate. But vulnerability, letting people see the real unfiltered you, vulnerability draws people in. It's the difference between reaching out and actually touching someone's life. We've been taught that vulnerability is weakness, that showing emotions, revealing flaws, or admitting fears makes you fragile. That if you want to be respected, if you want to be loved, you have to be strong, impeccable, unshakable. But let me ask you, is it weak to show your scars? Or is it brave? Is it fragile to say you're hurting? Or is it the greatest act of strength? Vulnerability isn't about oversharing or baring your soul to everyone you meet. It's not about making yourself smaller or seeking pity. Vulnerability is about honesty. It's about the courage to show up as your real self, even when you're scared. It's about saying, this is me, this is what I feel, this is where I'm at. That's not weakness. That's strength in its purest, most unfiltered form. Think about the moments in your life when you felt truly close to someone. Chances are, it wasn't when everything was perfect. It was when you sat together in the aftermath of heartbreak, or laughed until you cried over a silly mistake, or admitted you didn't have all the answers. We don't bond over perfection. We bond over pain, over laughter, over truth. And truth is often messy. Dr. Brené Brown, a world-renowned researcher on vulnerability, puts it perfectly. Vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. Studies show that when we are vulnerable, when we share our authentic selves, our brains release oxytocin, the chemical that builds trust and empathy. In other words, being real brings us closer. It's biology. It's connection written into our very DNA. Let's make this real for a moment. Think about someone you admire, a leader, a friend, a public figure. Maybe it's someone who's achieved great things, or someone who seems impossibly confident. Now, think about the moment you felt closest to them. Was it when they were winning, when everything was perfect? Or was it when they stumbled, when they admitted a mistake or shared a struggle? And those are the moments that stick with us. not because they were flawless, but because they were honest, because they were human. It's easy to keep our walls up, to hide behind humor or busyness or a carefully crafted persona. But those walls, as comforting as they might seem, keep others out. They keep us safe, yes, but they also keep us isolated. And the higher we build them, the lonelier we become. Why don't we let those walls down more often? The answer is simple: fear. The fear of being judged, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of not being enough. We worry that if people see the real us, they'll turn away, that our flaws will be too much, our pain too heavy, our dreams too outlandish. We think we're the only ones feeling this way. But the truth is, everyone is afraid. Everyone is fighting a battle you can't see. But here's the thing. When you open up, when you let even a little bit of your real self show, you give others permission to do the same. Vulnerability is contagious. It creates a ripple effect. When you're honest, when you say, "Hey, I'm struggling," or "I don't have it all together," you let others know it's safe to be real too. You don't have to dive into the deep end right away. You don't have to tell your deepest, darkest secrets to a stranger. You can start small. Be honest about how you feel today. Tell a friend you're having a tough week. Admit that you're nervous about a big presentation and say, "I'm not okay," and let that be okay. Vulnerability isn't all or nothing. It's a practice. It's a series of small choices, each one a step toward connection. What if we created a world where it was safe to be real, where we didn't always have to wear masks or pretend that everything is fine? What if, in our families, in our friendships, at our workplaces, we chose to go a little deeper, to ask questions that matter, to listen without trying to fix, to share before we're sure, to be the space we wish we had? Imagine the power of that. Imagine a workplace where you don't have to hide your struggles, where leaders admit they don't have all the answers, where colleagues support each other not just in achievements, but in setbacks. Imagine friendships built not on shared interests, but on shared truth. Imagine relationships where love isn't earned through perfection, but given freely in the face of imperfection. Because on the other side of vulnerability is connection, the kind of connection that heals, the kind that says, "You're not alone," the kind that says, "Me too." When we choose to be vulnerable, we invite people into our lives, not as spectators, but as companions on the journey. We let go of the need to impress and instead focus on what matters most: belonging. There's a story about a young woman who, after years of struggling with depression, finally opened up to a close friend. She expected distance, maybe even pity. But what she got was understanding. Her friend shared her own story, her own battles. They laughed, they cried, and for the first time, the weight she'd been carrying didn't feel so heavy. That's the power of vulnerability. It doesn't solve everything, but it reminds us that we're not in this alone. We live in a world that's obsessed with perfection, with image, with the illusion of control. But the truth is, life is messy. People are imperfect. And that's what makes us beautiful. That's what makes connection possible. Vulnerability isn't about being weak. It's about being brave. It's about showing up, even when you're scared. It's about letting people see the real you. The you that's sometimes strong, sometimes struggling, sometimes joyful, sometimes lost. And in that honesty, we find each other. So how do we get there? How do we build a culture of vulnerability in a world that worships perfection? It starts with us, with small choices every day. with being honest about how we're really doing, with asking deeper questions. How are you really? With listening without judgment, with sharing our stories, even when they're unfinished. It means being willing to say, I don't know. I need help. I made a mistake. It means letting go of the need to have it all together and embracing the truth that nobody does. It means recognizing that our value isn't in our achievements, but in our willingness to be real. Think about the people in your life. Who could you be more real with? Who could you let in, even just a little bit? Maybe it's a family member, a friend, a colleague. Maybe it's yourself. Sometimes the hardest person to be vulnerable with is the one in the mirror. Start small. Choose one person, one conversation, one moment. Be honest. Be real. It might feel scary at first. You might worry about what they'll think. But remember, vulnerability isn't about being fearless. It's about being brave enough to show up anyway. And when you do, you'll find that you're not alone, that others are waiting for someone to go first, that your honesty is the key to someone else's healing, that your story, in all its messiness, has the power to connect, to heal, to inspire. Because the world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more truth. And truth lives in vulnerability. So today, take one step. Be real with someone. Speak from the heart. Share your story. Ask for help. Offer support. Listen deeply, and know that in doing so, you are creating the kind of connection that changes lives. Remember, vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of courage, of strength, of hope. It's the foundation of every meaningful relationship, every moment of true connection. Be brave, be real, be connected. In the end, that's what we're all searching for. Not a perfect life, but a life that's real. Not flawless relationships, but relationships built on honesty, empathy, and understanding. Not a mask that hides our true selves, but a space where we can be seen, known, and loved exactly as we are. So let's drop the masks. Let's tear down the walls. Let's choose vulnerability, even when it's hard, because on the other side is the connection we crave, the belonging we need, the healing we deserve. Let's be the ones who go first, the ones who say, it's okay to be real here, the ones who make it safe for others to do the same. Because in a world that's desperate for connection, your vulnerability is the greatest gift you can give. Be brave, be real, be connected.